threw a leg across that iron horse and pulled the throttle down. A million things rushing through his mind like that rumbling sound. Living life in his own eyes, direction isn't clear. So searching all these years.
Welcome to Answers from Mars Hill. This is Pastor Ski of the Russian Wind Biker Church. I want to welcome you to this week's show. Last week we were talking about thankfulness, how we should live in a life of gratitude, of being thankful, not just to God, but to each other. You know, being thankful for the friends we have in our life, the people we have in our life, people of faith in a church, people that they know. You know, we all I think are insecure at heart, and we all like to hear that we're important, that we get acknowledgments once in a while, even that we're there, because a lot of times people kind of fade into the woodwork, and sometimes we can take them for granted, and that wears after a while. And so thankfulness is something that we need in a big way right now, because there's not a lot out there in the world to be thankful for. You know, we're plowing through the winter. We're in almost into the middle of February. Thank God we're done with election. Still aftermath and stuff that's going on, but a lot of things have quieted down. It seems like there are things going on with part of the country being opened. Kind of rumblings I've heard that March things are going to start opening in a much bigger way. I don't know where, I've just heard that from a bunch of different areas, that maybe we'll start to get a little more freedom back before spring comes in. You know, right now most people during the winter, we're kind of hunkered down anyway. So I don't think it's going to be as oppressive, even though, you know, the weather's cold and there's not a lot people can do, and that can be depressing as it is. But, you know, it's not like we're in a time of year where people can be very active and there are a lot of things to do. So hopefully by spring we'll be able to have our lives back to a bigger extent. And, you know, with this vaccine and all this stuff, I mean, it's crazy that we've got this thing we've been talking about for over a year now. You know, March, beginning of March, is going to be a year that we've been in some kind of lockdown. It's kind of crazy. You know, we're coming up to Easter Sunday in, I believe, 5 weeks maybe. And I remember last year at Easter, I had come down with what we think was this COVID virus. We don't know because I haven't been tested for antibodies. But, you know, we normally have a big motorcycle run. Usually 100 or so motorcycles come out like real early in the morning. We ride into the sunrise out to the beach and celebrate Easter. And last year couldn't happen. I was under the weather, and my assistant pastor had a full-blown case of COVID, and he had just started to feel the symptoms. And so my two other pastors put on a little impromptu thing down at the beach. Handful of people showed up, even though we kind of discouraged it, because back then nobody was allowed to do anything. And here we are. It's almost a year. It's really gone by real quick. And you know, like I said, thank God. I mean, there isn't a lot of things that are better, but I think the loudness of what's going on out there has subsided, and people are kind of. I think the election being over might have calmed things down. I know in our church things are going very, very well. People are gravitating back on and off. We've had some small fellowship gatherings because the fellowship is a very important time, and you know, in the last couple of weeks, you know, we've gotten together, try to keep it 10 or less, and it's just so good to see people laugh, and and be able to just share and talk about life. It's not all about Bible studies and services. When you've got a church, it's friendship and fellowship and laughing, and we've had some of that the last couple of weeks. So it's been really, really, really a good time, and it's. I think I've said this over the last several weeks that I don't think it's even though it's tragic and it's a hard thing we're going through. I think it's a wake-up call that has been much needed for humanity, for our American culture, for just families, relationships, social gatherings, and of course churches, to just wake up and see what's really going on. We get a chance to look at ourselves and get an honest view of faith, where we stand, or even people not of faith. We're getting an understanding of how we would all react when something dramatic and maybe tragic, but earth-shattering happens. And it hasn't been pretty, whether you're somebody of faith or not. There's a lot of dark things going on. And that's why, I like to share a little positivity, a little faith, what Christianity and what this faith in Jesus is all about, and how it can help us through times particularly like now. And so, I hope you watched last week's show and maybe got a little bit of depth of why we should be thankful to each other, because it draws us together. When we speak words of encouragement and appreciation to each other, it really goes to, number one, heal and maybe help forgive, but also to draw us together when we need to be close in dark times. Today, I'm going to talk about something that really goes beyond thankfulness, and something that is part of our Christian mindset that I don't think many people understand. They don't talk about. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, it's kind of the thesis and the constitution of our faith of Christianity, talks about himself being a debtor. We know that salvation is free, grace is a gift, and so we don't owe God anything for the life, the forgiveness, the salvation that He's given us in this Christian faith. But Paul mentions this thing, how he's a debtor, and he's not a debtor to God, because with grace you don't owe anything to God. But if you really have been overwhelmed by this love of God and the grace of God, it creates a debt to other people. And Paul says in how he spoke then, I've become a debtor to the Greeks, to the barbarians, to the wise, and to the foolish, really all segments of community and all segments of humanity. And so what actually does that mean, being a debtor? And how do we get into this debt? How do we pay this debt? It's kind of an interesting thought, especially those out there that aren't of faith. I think you may learn a little bit about how we should live our lives in community within humanity, and part of what this Christian mindset, what Jesus came to bring us, that is really a thought that heals. It's a thought that creates community, actually opens doors, opens minds, and frees a lot of people. But it's a very hard concept. And so after we come back from a few words from our sponsors, I want to talk a little bit about the debt that us of faith have to the world, to those who don't have faith, also to those in the church, how we're debtors in a lot of ways, but not in ways that the world kind of views. So we'll dig into this new kind of debt after a few words from our sponsors. We'll see you in a minute.
Hey everybody, this is Motorcycle Mike, the personal injury lawyer. I've been riding motorcycles my entire adult life. During the course of my 30-year career as a lawyer, I've also represented countless injured motorcyclists. If you're one of them, I can be of assistance to you. Go to my website, please, motorcyclemikeesq.com. I'll always be there for you I'm on your side when you ride.
Welcome back to Answers from Mars Hill. Again, Pastor Ski here. And I want to unwrap this whole idea of a debt that the Word of God says that we have to each other. Paul actually later on in the book of Romans, in chapter 13, he says, "Owe nothing to anyone except for the ongoing debt of love." It's kind of where I'm going to be parking today and unwrapping this this premise of we're debtors. I think I talked over the last couple of weeks about thankfulness and about God's grace and how we're in a place where we don't deserve the grace of God. We don't deserve a lot of the benefits that God has given us just by the power of what was purchased by the death of His Son. And we should be so grateful and so thankful that thankfulness should well over, that we are so undeserving that we should understand that other people need to feel the thankfulness and the love of God and grace of God, and that's through us. And so Paul takes it actually to another level, I guess you'd call it, where he says, this extraordinary experience, why should anyone be robbed of that opportunity of grace and salvation and peace and all the things that faith in Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit brings us? And so we owe it to people. And so I want to bring Bobby in and take this conversation. And later on I have a little illustration that I think you may understand. So Bobby, how are we doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. The snow is annoying.
Yeah.
But I put a little thing on Facebook about how beautiful the snow is when you're warm inside your house and you're looking outside the window.
Yeah.
And kind of using that as a metaphor of how when we're in this faith of Christianity and in Christ, as the Bible says, that we can be in a place of love and warmth and in the middle of a world that looks kind of chaotic and dark. That we can be in a place like looking out a warm house window at a beautiful snow scene, knowing that it's freaking 20 degrees outside.
Yeah. And we definitely, don't want to be out in it. And and it is beautiful when it's coming down, and it's just, it's just so clean and everything, and a couple of days later it's like a mess and muddy, and it's like, you know. But it is beautiful when it does come down.
Well, I think humanity has found so many ways to take what is beautiful and make it a mess and muddy.
Yeah. That's true.
It's a nice metaphor if you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I was listening to you in the beginning, and that's the first thing that I really thought of. Jesus, he really, his one command, I know love thy God, but it was also, love others as I have loved you, love your neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's all he really asked from us. That was like the main thing. And we really don't do it.
Yeah.
We don't really do what he asked. Mm-hmm. And we want his favor and God's blessings and all that. But yet, at the same token, the majority of us aren't even doing what was asked of us. I agree that we are definitely indebted to Jesus, and we really need to step up.
Yeah.
You know?
What I shared last week, this may be a little picture that may may help people understand this whole idea of being a debtor. If you put yourself in a place where maybe you're with, just a large crowd of people, and you're in a situation where death, tragedy, and destruction are imminent. Let's say you're in the path of just a wicked hurricane, or if you're, you got, like in California, these wildfires, and you're trapped against the ocean, and the fires are coming, and it's devouring everything, and everybody is destined just to be the wreckage that's left. Or maybe you're standing on a beach, and all of a sudden a tsunami 1,000 feet high is you're all staring at it, and you're about to all be crushed and killed at the same time. And you're in this tragic situation with a whole bunch of people, a whole lot of people. And, sometimes you're kind of huddling together, and you're all waiting for the tragedy to hit, and you're just going through things. And then something happens, and you are given the life raft. The answer has come to you. And there's a door that's open for you to escape this tragic situation that you've been locked in with all these people, and we're all going to die, we're all going to be destroyed. And now something has been opened to you. And what is the feeling when you start to be excited, and you start to get, just dancing like my life's been saved, and you start walking away, and you turn around and you look back at everyone else who's going to die?
You know what that makes me think of? That makes me think of the Titanic and the people who were on the lifeboats.
Yeah.
And they were drifting away, and they were filled to the brim, to begin with. So,
yeah.
Like, here they are in the distance. They see literally thousands of people dying. And they have to sit there and watch it, knowing that they most likely will somehow survive.
Right.
And that's must be a hard feeling.
And the thing that what Paul is trying to say, and there's the whole thing about the Christian faith, are we just going to walk away? People get upset when we want to share our faith, and we want to share Jesus and love with people. But this is the picture. We've all been saved. And people don't understand the destruction that is coming. They don't understand the darkness they've been in. Some of them actually do. And I tell you, it's frustrating when there's a lot of people who are even going through horrible lives. They know they're going through horrible lives, and you share the answer that you've been given, and they still don't get it. But as far as, how dare we walk away from everybody and walk away scot-free in our mind that we've been freed, we've been rescued, and leave everybody behind.
Yeah.
And that's what Paul's talking about as debt. And when you really and feel the love of God, and like you said, love your neighbor as yourself, how can you walk away from, It's
and I think as human beings, I think when we're put in that tremendous, horrific situation, I think that comes out of us, and we do want to help people. And I think back to like 9/11, and when that happened, it's just like, those first responders and people who literally knew that they may die, but somehow they went in trying, there's some stories, and it's just amazing. And even after that, we were so close, we were so tight, everybody was, there was no more of that BS. Everybody was just like, trying to come together and heal and figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But it's those are the exceptions, those are things that we should be doing on a little scale every day, and we seem to wait until something drastic happens and then do it all big.
Yeah.
But it's the daily little things that we're supposed to be doing on a small level every day that could add up to 100 times more than that, one big day that we help out.
Yeah, it's how can we, especially from the perspective of someone who is in this faith. If you've really have been touched by God, you've been overwhelmed by His generosity, and how we're not worthy of this life God has given us, and neither is anyone else. And so the whole idea is God didn't have to do anything for us. He could have let us just destroy ourselves and be destroyed with everyone else, but he gave us an opportunity when when Jesus went to the cross, and so now we've had that opportunity, and everybody we've gone through in life, everybody we see, how are we going to look them in the eyes and not at least try to throw them a life raft or a life protector or a life vest or whatever you want to use as an analogy? Are we just going to let them drown? Are we going to let them just die? And that's the debt that Paul is talking about, how we should feel a burden. And a lot of things you see now in the Bible that Jesus said that sound like crazy talk can actually make sense. As far as love your enemies. We were God's enemy before God got a hold of us and we stepped into faith. And God loved us so much that he went out of his way, even though many of us ran from him, cursed him. But he loved us through that and just kept at us until, we saw the light. And, finally we heard his voice. And even people that are mean to us, people who persecute us, people who shame us. It's actually a message I'm giving this Sunday. I was going to do it yesterday, but the snow kept me from it. About are we ashamed of this thing that is so great? Because the world wants to shame us, but we owe it to the very people who are persecuting us. That we were them, and now we have a different life. We have a different opportunity, and so we should feel indebted as far as our faith. And after this first break, I want to kind of shift that into just a more broad conversation, not just within a Christian faith, although it's empowered really greatly within the Christian faith, but just living in a humanity that should be more loving and caring about each other. And so we're going to continue this conversation after a couple of words from our sponsors. Again, we'll be talking about how we should feel indebted to each other for goodness and grace. We'll be back after a minute from our sponsors. Hi everyone, Pastor Ski here, and I want to thank you for watching our program. I want to just tell you about two resources that I have for you, sources of encouragement. I've lived a very challenging life, and God has allowed me to go through a lot of things, and I've written 2 books. The first one is called The Fear of Life. This is kind of my life story of a very hard childhood, very dark childhood, dark family life, and how God redeemed my life from it, how he showed me life when I thought that life wasn't available. And then I wrote this book called No Sting when I went through my battle with terminal cancer, and how God healed me, how he enlightened me, strengthened me, and made a big difference in my life. And both of these very encouraging resources, sources of inspiration. If you know people who are struggling, people who have hard lives, or people that are struggling with cancer, they would be probably a good resource. And if you would like to purchase one of these books, you can go to BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, and the Zulon Press bookstore. And I appreciate your support, and get these out and help a lot of people. God bless you all, and I'll see you down the road. Welcome back to Answers from Mars Hill. Again, we're talking about this debt that the Bible talks about that we have to each other. We live in a humanity where we can't do this life alone. We need each other to get through this life, emotionally, tangibly, physically. We look at debts of a community that kind of holds on to each other. In the bike community, we have motorcycle clubs, and they are a family. They're kind of a small church kind of entity with brothers, and they kind of have one mindset, one goal, and the thing is they owe it to each other to be there for each other. So if somebody has a problem, or if somebody loses their job, the other men in the club will chip in and help. I have a man in my church who is just a beautiful man of God. He's with a motorcycle club, and his father just passed away, and that motorcycle club, not a Christian entity, is helping feed the family, dropping off food, being there, because a community and a culture, they owe each other. They just feel compelled because, God brought us all together to be there for each other. And part of the thankfulness, going from what we talked about last week, is showing our gratitude by being there. Gratitude is, if you think about it, really is kind of along the lines with feeling a debt to someone. If we feel grateful to someone, that's kind of a place of debt. We owe them to thank them. It's kind of it bleeds into each other, these two premises. And we think of if you look at like a radical Christian community, if we look at the Amish, who kind of have held to some of the very, very primitive ways of doing life, and they're not against technology per se, but they're against moving past a lot of the things that have brought a lot of the purity of our humanity away. And it's just part of their culture. If somebody's house burns down, the entire community gets together and rebuilds their house. And this is the kind of debt that Paul is talking about, that we owe each other to help each other. And from the Christian perspective, Paul is in a place where he's astounded that God has actually reached out to him and extended this life, this grace, and this love to him. He's astounded, and he just can't keep it to himself. And I believe when people actually, sincerely have this conversion, if you call it, this experience with God, through God's Spirit, that's the mentality that we should be overwhelmed with. Some of these old songs that we used to sing, Christian rock in its early days, you gotta tell somebody. Gotta tell somebody what Jesus did for me. And thinking of the broad sense of our faith, if you want to think about heaven and hell, and what's good and what's not good, and sin and evil and goodness and righteousness and all these things, if we truly believe that this is the most extraordinary thing, and actually to the point where it's going to help us avoid the most terrorizing eternal thing, how could we not share this with everyone? And of course the church has gotten it wrong. Instead of inviting and encouraging and just loving people, to let them know love is really what it's all about, they've kind of corrupted everything, and they start judging everybody. And what do we owe everybody? The debt of judgment? I mean, it just complicates really what this is supposed to be all about. But if we look at communities that really work on all cylinders, it really goes back to the first church. The first church was the only community that ever was like that. Everybody helped each other. In the book of Acts, when it says that, kind of the crazy thing of this first church is they all took care of each other's needs. And some people sold their houses so they'd have money to give to the poor and to support people, because they felt indebted to each other. just because none of us deserve, what we've been given. And so the people that we know, they don't deserve it either, but we got it by just God's grace. And one of the really encouraging things about life is we get to share that and be part of God's grace into other people's lives. So, Bobby, you coming back? Or are you going to hang out for a while?
I'm here. I'm listening.
Yeah.
It sounds, it's so true. Makes me feel guilty. I know that I don't do enough, and it's so easy to say, oh yeah, I'm going to start doing the right thing and helping people, and I try, but not hard enough.
Well, I think the one of the worst things you can go through is somebody's life goes in a direction, or maybe even they lose their life, and you had an opportunity. It might have been to share a word. It might have been to share something of substance that might have given them a little hope.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've all been on that, the other end of that, where we kind of, could I have made a difference? And I think we all need to know that we all can make a difference in so many people's lives. Mm-hmm. And especially when, we just feel that our life has been taken out of a place where we were in despair. We were hopeless. And we got to share that with people. We can't keep that to ourselves. Because then have you really understood what you've been given? People that have just really fallen into a great life. And I'm not talking about money and stuff. I'm talking about just peace and love and tranquility and comfort and purpose and hope. If you really feel that, you don't even know how this just came as a gift from God. It's just, I don't know how I got it. I'm thankful I got it. I didn't deserve it. If you look around, I didn't deserve this. Nobody else is any worse than me. And so how could I not share it with anybody? Somebody else deserves a shot. Mm-hmm. Bobby?
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't need to be overwhelmed like we have to do such grand extreme things. Maybe it's just starting with some small things, just being a little more friendly to people that you encounter every day, the strangers, you know what I'm saying? Just giving a smile, just saying how you doing, asking somebody, even I was out the other day and somebody looked like they were in their car and they were stuck, and I just pulled over. I says, hey, are you stuck? You need a push or something? And no, we got it. But at least that's just little thing. What would have taken me if they were stuck, just to help them push the car out. So it's just little things. It doesn't have to be, don't overwhelm yourself, but these little things just, they'll add up. You do 1, 2, 3 little things a day, and that adds up. By the end of the week, you really, really, you could have touched, a couple dozen people and really affected 1 or 2 like you'd never ever dreamed of, you know?
It adds a lot of value to your life, and especially right now, there are so many people that are suffering financially, mentally, socially because of this garbage that's going on. And then there's some people who have not suffered. And there are some people who actually have benefited through this time. And, how could they not reach out to people who haven't been so lucky to have benefited? They just happen to be in the right place, maybe the right profession, that this affected them in a way that, there are people who are prospering during this pandemic.
Oh yeah, there have been a small percentage, but there's some people who just totally.
And so what are they going to keep what they have and just watch everybody else die and rot? Yeah. How could they? Because it's just, I'm not going to say the luck of the draw, but they just happen to be in a place where, at this time, this happening, and they had nothing to do with the timing of it. They had nothing to do with what brought them to that place in this time. It's actually just, whether they're faith or not, it's the grace of God that they're, and we use this phrase, there but for the grace of God go I, and it's kind of the spot on truth, but people throw that around like, it's kind of some light thing. Absorb that. If you're out there today and you're going through a decent time, there's understand that's only because of the grace of God, and you only have stuff to be God's grace to other people.
Yeah, and you have to share. You have to share the blessing. I mean, you're being blessed. Being put in an amazing position
Yeah.
to share that with other people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and it's sad. But if you look at, even if you look at how the American culture has developed, it's the haves and the have-nots. With a free society, it's always going to be that. And unfortunately, you have the people that are the haves that forget from whence they came, so to speak, and they hoard everything. You look at some of the people in our country that are leading right now. People that are, our vice president gave less than 2% of her income to charities in the last year or two. Our president, less than 1.5% given to causes and charities. And all these people that have made money over the years, that, they've done nothing but hold on to everything they've had. Meanwhile, they want to take our tax dollars and help people with our money. That's a political story for another day. But yeah, people are hoarders, and we need to understand that we only have stuff because of grace, opportunity, being in the right place at the right time, which is really God's sovereign way of happening. And we need to be people of debt, people who know we owe people. If we're in a good place, and especially faith, if we're in a great place of faith, we need to share that with other people that are going through darkness right now. So as we wind down this segment, just want to encourage people to pay attention for the next segment, the word for the week, as we dig in a little deeper from the, Christian perspective of why Paul would say that we're debtors to people in our Christian family, which goes with thankfulness, but also we're debtors to a world that needs so much hope, needs so much love, compassion, needs tangible things, and who else is going to give it to them? From the Christian perspective, we give and we ask nothing in return because that's what our God did. So when we come back, be the word for the week, and this debt we have to the world. We're back in a minute with Answers from Mars Hill.
Hey everybody, this is Motorcycle Mike, the personal injury lawyer. In addition to representing injured motorcyclists for over 30 years now, during that same time, I've represented countless car crash victims and construction workers injured on construction sites. If you need my assistance, go to my website, motorcyclemikeesq.com. I will always be there for you.
Welcome back to Answers from Mars Hill. This is the word for the week. We've been speaking about debtors. How Paul, in the book of Romans, says that he considers himself a debtor to the Greeks, the barbarians, the wise, and the foolish. What Paul is saying is he feels indebted to the world for what has been given him. See, God gives grace, and God gives his love. God gave his love so that we might all that are of the Christian faith, truly of the Christian faith, that we can have an extraordinary life. We can have the promises of God. We can have the eternal salvation. And And that should overwhelm us. Paul was in a place of not even being able to grasp the enormity of the grace that he was given. You know, he didn't deserve to be touched by Jesus. And by the way, neither you, neither me, neither am I. But he did, and he was. And we've been given this extraordinary gift of grace, which is so undeserved. And Paul is now trying to convey to the church in Rome, and hopefully I can help us understand today as believers, followers of Jesus, and even those who don't follow Jesus, understanding that anything good that comes into our life, anything that we possess, has only been by a gift of grace. You know, Paul starts that segment talking about how he longed to come to Rome to be able to impart some spiritual gift to them, whether it was preaching or teaching or encouraging or whatever it might be, because he felt obligated because of what God has given him. He felt he owed people. You know, I spoke earlier in the show how we should think about this as if we're in this massive group of people that are just in a place of being destroyed, in a place where everyone is going to be just wiped out, annihilated. Everyone's going to face tragedy. Everyone's going to face suffering. We're all going through this humanity together. And how if someone reached out to you or something, a door opened out of nowhere, not because of who you were, it just happened, and you were given the free pass of nothing you did, because you're no different than all those people huddled in the despair of the oncoming destruction. And all of a sudden, the door is open to you, a way out. And the joy you'd feel, and the ecstatic emotions and freedom. And how could you not turn around to the people you've been in that mess with and offer them the same door? You take that and leave? Well, I think if you really have stepped into this faith in God and how the Bible describes it, you can't possibly do that, because we are so undeserving of everything that we have. The ability to even me stand here and share in kind of a common, understandable way some of God's way, that God put that gift in me. I didn't do anything to earn it. And for me to keep that and to not share it, and the reason for it, would really show that I didn't understand grace at all. Because, Paul knew that no one deserves grace, but we got it. And Paul considered, because of that, because of the enormity of what he was given, that he felt compelled. Because God uses us to extend grace to other people. We are the instruments of grace. And unless we know the enormity of what we've been given for free, I don't think we understand the debt we owe to everyone that's in the same place we were before we were given that free gift we didn't deserve. Because everyone around us is in the same boat we were in. They don't deserve it. I spoke earlier that we're going through hard times, and many people are suffering and losing and despair and financial hardships and careers shot, and then there's some who have actually benefited. There's some who have been able to ride this out. And there's no rhyme or reason that they were in a position to do that. And if that's you, don't take credit for you being in the right place in the right time to have the right resources or benefits to carry you through a time that is ravaging everyone else. But think that we're part of a humanity. We're part of people who need help, and all of you, whether you're in a good place right now or not, you needed help. You may need some kind of help right now. And so we should all understand that we are gifts to each other, and we're obligated, because grace that's not shared is not grace. You never understood what you had. When God reached into your life, if you're a believer, did the unthinkable, the unimaginable. Paul was overwhelmed. He said, I've received such grace for forgiveness. Oh my God, I've received this salvation from the human dilemma. The human dilemma here and the human dilemma eternal. And he knew that everything he was a gift, even that he could be an apostle, that he could be a preacher, that he would be given the word to give hope to other people. He knew that he was given such grace, and he was given such gifts, and they weren't for him, because they're not a gift if you're not using what God has given you. Everything that you've been given, even before you were a Christian, even if you're not a Christian. If you have a trade, you didn't put that in you. You didn't put the ability to comprehend and the dexterity to do what you do. That was something that God gave you when he thought of you, created you. Think about that, especially those who don't believe in God. Where'd that come from? Don't take credit for stuff that you didn't have anything to do with. It's a gift of grace that God poured into your life long before you even heard of grace. You know, the great knowledge of doctors and scientists and lawyers and people who can process thoughts and ideas and package them and create and just change the world. You didn't do that on your own. You picked up the books and you honed the ability you had inherently that was created in you. And maybe people in the medical field right now, they kind of understand how they are a gift. They owe people the use of what God gave them. How much more those who are in this faith of Jesus Christ? We understand the enormity of what we are escaping. You know, if we tie into this faith, we can escape the burdens and the stress and the hopelessness that is everything in this world. And we know the extension of our faith. We know the extension of humanity long past the timeline of humanity. There's an eternity, and we escape what most won't. Be overwhelmed by that. And understand, if you're understanding that, look around you. Hopelessness. They're lost like you were, no matter what they think their life is. They're just in that massive crowd, waiting for destruction to hit, waiting for death to come. And not just the death of this life, but the enduring death to come. How could you accept that and allow other people to go through that? Not introduce them to the ideas, to the thought to the theology of Jesus, to the saving grace that he offers everyone. How could you, after knowing how undeserving you were, yet God reached out to you, spoke to you, enlightened you, and saved you? How can you look around, the people around you, the co-workers, friends, people you know? Man, we owe it to the world. We owe it to those that even don't like us, because all the parameters of this human dilemma that created the attitude of them even not liking you. They're a victim. They need grace. We owe them the truth. That's why Jesus said, love your enemies. Pray for those who despitefully use you, because they deserve grace too if you got grace. Because no one deserves grace. So, understand the debt that we have as people of God. That's the word for the week. Thank you for tuning in. If this has spoken to you, please share it. Let other people understand we're all in this life together. Are we going to escape the fire and watch everybody we know burn? I hope not. Because then I doubt that you actually have a grace to be understood. I want to thank my sponsors. I want to thank Mike Levine, Motorcycle Mike. I want to thank Bobby from Strong Island TV. And if anyone would like to contribute to the furthering of the word for the week and also the program this comes from, Answers from Mars Hill, you can text GIVE to 631-253-7773. Check out our website, the Rushing Wind Biker Church, rushingwindbc.org. God puts it on your heart. You want to contribute to the cause, click donate. The information's all there. And we live in hard times. Don't be selfish. Be thankful, as I spoke about last week. But have an attitude that we have received so much that we don't deserve. That we owe a debt to other people who don't deserve to have the same future, the same promises, the same Lord and Savior, the same joy. Think about it. God loves you. The world won't know God's love unless you love them. I'll see you next week. The word for the week and Answers from Mars Hill. God bless you all. Let's get this right. The world needs you. God bless.